All right. Well, hello everyone. Let's see. We're gonna make sure it's going. I think it's all working. All right. So we are here today, and oh, yeah. Okay. So I think everything is working, and today we're gonna be working through this painting, and really actually just kind of getting our live stream setup going, and feeling comfortable with that as kind of my main goal. But we're gonna be painting. Feel free to chat and ask any questions you have. But the main goal for this, as we're working through it, is to just get it to another level of where it's at, trying to get it to this next level. I just want to look through everything, make sure everything's all good. And yeah, I'll just presume everything's good and we'll figure things out on the other end of things. All right, so let's have a little look at what we want to do. So one of the things that I have about this painting right now that I like is we kind of have everything, the basic ideas of everything down. We have colors in, we have basic shapes, basic everything. And so we want to catch everything up to more or less the same level. This area in here, there's some, reference to some like coral down here. And I want it to get a little bit more of the feeling of movement and change inside of here. And so it's a little bit difficult because we have it, if there's a really bright color, and everything we're going to do is probably going to be toning that color down. But there's a way in which, if everything's sort of too bright and too big, it becomes quite garish. And so in a way, toning down some of these areas in terms of the strength of the color and getting our values together is actually going to help the parts that still retain their color to feel a lot better. So we are going to, I want to work on some of this area down here first. All right. Let's see, as we're mixing it up, so one of the things I try to do is to keep the color mixes pretty simple so that I can remember what they were. And generally you can get to where you need to be in just a few steps. Generally you can use like 3 or 4 colors to get exactly where you need to be instead of trying to get every single color in. And really that actually helps because then I know what I'm doing. I know where my colors are. I know how to get back to them. And so there's a simplicity to that that's just immensely helpful. And so I always try and do that. So we're coming on here and it's really dry. Right, this is cold press, Archer's cold press. I normally like to work on hot press, but cold press is the only thing they had in this size where I was at. So cold press it is. Anyway, so what I wanted to say is that sometimes when you're working into something that's really dry, you get these really strong edges. And so I'll often carry around a second brush and either get some more texture or smooth out some of the edges. But right now I'm trying to go for what's going to be the most interesting. There we go. And if everyone has any thoughts or questions, definitely please ask. So yeah, one of the things that I find interesting when I'm working through, something like this, which is, it's really kind of basic in many ways. It's really nice to have the sort of basic shapes and everything down, but especially in a painting this big, it's really nice to get just some like more texture going. So I think that's going to be one of my goals. Sarah Jane's here. Hey, Sarah Jane. Says, this looks amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really here to test out streaming, to try to get back into some streaming again and test out all of my situations. So, if there's anything kind of interesting going on as far as the quality of everything, I don't really get to see that myself at the moment. Please let me know. So yeah, when it's this size, I really get like a really nice chance. Flaming Galah! Sarah Jane says, I used to watch a lot Flaming Galah on Twitch. Nice to see you back at it again. Oh, I remember you, Flaming Galah. That's fantastic. All right, so like a lot of the things that I'm putting in now, kind of like sinking in. And there's a nice part of that. But again, I've kind of been painting into some of the already dark areas. So what I'm going to do is I want to get some of this texture out here to indicate maybe some more of the movement of the waves and such. So I'm going to like get rid of most of the moisture on my brush and if you start painting sideways, like as opposed to like straight down, when you're painting straight down, you get a definite sense of like how absolutely thick the brush is. But if you go sideways like this, then you're going to get more sort of textural or little instances of things. You can kind of get more of a feeling of really thin lines coming out. So I'm interested to see how that goes. All right. So there's a way with gouache where it needs to kind of settle to dry to get a really good idea about that final result. So a lot of times we'll do small things like this and then leave and wait for it to dry so we can come back later. And so yeah, there's a bit of jumping around that's going to be happening. Sarah says, do you generally work light to dark because you started wet on wet? It depends. It depends on what the painting is doing. Quite often I will start light to dark. And there's a little bit of something like a painting like this. You can also go back to front, which at the same time actually is light to dark as it's kind of moving around. But there are some things where, so for example, I didn't want to extend all this nice color behind these trees. So you start really thick, and then you try and put like a really solid but transparent dark on top. Then the white that's underneath like mixes and gets really kind of weird. And so if you're doing something that you want to be both a little bit transparent and dark, then yeah, putting that dark down first, because it doesn't have any white in it at all. And the minute you start to put a little bit of white in it, it's going to affect it hugely. All right, so what do I want to do next? There's some of the stuff back here, kind of like while I'm waiting for this to, it's mostly dried. But there's some of the kind of little mountain bits. And this will do pretty transparently, because we don't want to just add a whole bunch of value back there. So yeah, I'll mix up a lot of that paint, a lot of that water. I'm gonna put this in now, and I'm interested to see how much remains. I think there's enough of a color difference that we're gonna get a good feel for maybe some of the shadows back there. But we do want it to be pretty light. Yeah, so it actually feels nice. It's very simple, but there's a way in which that's one of the best things we can do with something that's so far back. All right, and now I think I am gonna try to do like a little live on Instagram as well. I'm just gonna take a second to set that up. We'll get there. All right, and so we're now live there. Okay, brilliant. So yeah, we are kind of just testing out our live setup, seeing what we can do, and trying to work through this big gouache painting. That live canceled. Oh well. All right. So that's really cool. One of the things I like about this kind of area is in my reference, it's really, it's got a lot of movement, a lot of like little dots, a little kind of wet things going on in there. And so I like that a lot. And I want to try and add basically as much of that as I can without it getting really overwhelming. And so I'm probably going to sort of keep coming back and essentially kind of just spraying this. With these little bits. And so long as they're not really messing with the overall form of everything, then we're in good shape. I'm going to put my hand down here just to stop it from flicking anywhere. All right, I think my Instagram live is working. I think it is. Stoling out. Why are you stolen out? Poor connection. Yeah. Oh, well. Here we are on YouTube. We'll just enjoy it. Okay, there's some kind of really bright orange bits in here that I want to add in. Again, very subtly. And so it's a little intimidating. We don't want it to get too strong. There we go. Because there really is some very strong color in here. And with something this, I don't really know if I want to call it straightforward, but there is something really straightforward about this painting, I feel. And so if I can like really lean into the texture, the color, some more of these like very, I don't know, present physical experiences, I think that's going to be helpful. Yeah, we'll get some more of that color down here. Almost as like shadows. Yeah, and it's just more texture. I just want to get more textural in here. Did anyone do anything interesting for Christmas? We are gonna visit some family for a little bit. All right, so some of this down here could benefit with just a little bit more of a detail level. Xantha's here. Painting's looking great. Thank you very much. Yep, trying to get just trying to get it to that next level. A little bit more texture, a little bit more interesting things. All right, so I'm gonna like kind of flick some of this. Just a little bit more protection. Whoa, that was big. All right. So let's see. That was nice. Actually, there's a lot of good quality about that. I think that was a nice mistake. Good. And yeah, just playing around with figuring out how I can get more texture and more just interest with my brushwork. So this area down here, let's kind of move this down a little. Oh, sorry, that's a bit jarring. Okay, this area down here, we got a little bit of maybe more opaque paint in there, which isn't bad, but I want it to look like it's intentional, like it's there for a reason. Because otherwise it just, yeah, at least kind of pulls my attention there a little bit. And so if I can do something like find the little brush strokes in here and kind of give them a little bit of shadow, it might make it feel like this is like just another kind of rock. There's a lot of art for me that's all about making accidental things look intentional, or finding problems and turning them into solutions. All right. So I think what I want to do is get a little movement up here in the trees. There's some part of this where we have this like really direct shadow light, and for the kind of tree it is, I don't think that's actually working for us. So I'm going to try for something else. This is that kind of pine tree that has sort of clusters of pines. And so there's some of it that's working really nicely up here. I like that a lot. But down here, not so much. And so in a way to make this work, I was going to say I'm going to soften the edges of a lot of what's going on there. But actually I'm going to start seeing if I can do some dry brushing and use the dry brushing to get a little bit more of that feel. Just because it's a strategy that I don't use quite as much. And so therefore, there's some clear room for growth and for getting a bit more confident. So I'm going to like splay out my brush. That's maybe not quite as dry as I was expecting, but we're getting there. Zan says, it's really interesting watching how you're using the quill brush with gouache. Makes me want to try it out too. Yeah, absolutely. I love using the quill brush with gouache. It's kind of taken over the round of the role of rounds for me. Because you can really get a lot of different. You can get some really, because a quill brush holds like so much water right at the thick part of it, especially once you start to get like to really big ones. You hold so much water in there, and therefore so much paint. But it also means it's just the size of your brush is so variable depending on how you're trying to use it. And I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, Bill's here. Bill says, instead of splaying the brush, could you use a fan brush? I could. So let's grab that. I got a fan brush right here. But it's huge. It's huge. Let's do it anyway. Probably some of these areas in here. So we've got this. Yeah, I like that. Feels like there's a little less control, but that's really mostly just because I haven't really practiced with it. And who said having less control is a bad thing? So be interesting to see how this all sort of dries. But yeah, okay, once this starts to get really dry, there's a lot of, I think a lot of really interesting texture we could do with it. That's cool. Thanks for the suggestion. Zen says, it's a brush I tend to use with watercolor and usually for wet techniques. You're using it for gouache details, it's basically the polar opposite. Yeah. All right, so we're getting some nice movement sort of once this is all settling in, which is very nice. I want to get something a little bit darker in there though. Because we still have this like just straight, essentially like it feels like a column, just a big column, and I don't quite like that. It feels a bit too, I don't know, square for me, for what it's trying to describe at least. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry. I think that little kind of changing that shape really helped, at least as far as I see it. That helped a lot. And up there too. Okay. I'm just gonna bring some of this up. You know, sometimes when you're dealing with what is essentially kind of like one tree, I want to add in some of the elements that I add in down here, up there as well. Otherwise, it starts to feel like I've kind of painting the same thing in two very different ways. Which there's a time and place for that, but I don't feel like this is it. All right, now as I kind of wait for that to dry, I'm gonna move my attention down here. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But down here we start to really lose a bit of this. And I think it's fine to lose some places, but I just need like a little something to hold on to. I kind of often think about it as kind of like the hook of a song. Or you have a hook, you can have a song, and it's really, really nice. But you put a hook on it, and it just pulls your attention in and makes a little distinction. A little something for your eyes to land on when it sits down there. I think I probably also want some slightly different values. I think it needs to get a bit darker down here because we have this water that's coming down and getting nice and really dark. And then these trees suddenly don't. And I think it's okay for some of them not to, but some of the stuff, especially down here, is definitely a lot closer to us. And so I think I'm going to extend that out a little bit. Let's, just for the sake of fun, I'm going to grab that big fan brush again. All right, so I've got this. It's really wet right now. I'm really liking this action of like pushing into the fan brush like this. Get a lot of variety. You know, sometimes I get a bit hesitant with the fan brush because, you know, you do something like this and you just get a big set of streaks. And so working it this way kind of helps for something a little bit more organic, at least in the places where I want it. All right, that's got so much water, I don't think it's going to dry particularly dark. All right. Liam says, how dare you live stream and not tell me? I've been like setting things up and trying to live stream for the last week and just running into problem after problem, just because I haven't done it like this in quite a while. And so today was supposed to be like a quiet live stream, just to get it in, just to get the practice to, you know, stop my head from coming up with excuses. Oh, here we are. Hey. Oh, Liam, I'm actually live streaming at the moment. So, yeah. Okay. So yeah, we've been working through this painting, and by the way, it's really blurry on the feed that it's showing me through YouTube, but I know I don't get like the final product. So if it's blurry on your end of things, please let me know. I would love to find out. Okay, so over here. Let's go back to this view. This is nice, but we've got a lot of blue into the mix in here, which is fine. But it's kind of not what I was going for. Liam says it's not blurry. Fantastic. What about audio quality? Where's that? I think that should be all right. But I turned up my microphone, so I'm not sure what that's going to sound like. Yeah, so I'm essentially going to grab some of these areas where there was a lot of blue, and I want to put this down, and essentially that's going to turn my problem of having a lot of blue into a solution where it feels like as it's getting lighter, it's getting a little bit more blue. And so I actually think it's going to be a nice sort of accidental turn. All right, audio and video are good. Brilliant. That's what we want to hear. Okay then. All right. So I'm going to add just a touch more definition down here. There we go. And okay, so that little bit of work down here that we're doing has just dried. And so that means I get to see the value a little bit more clearly. We're going to push it. I don't want to push it all the way to black because I don't want this to feel like a cartoon or at least in this degree of daylight, you're probably not going to get all the way black. But I think we get some nice, solid, really dark greens and browns down here. Oh yeah, we're playing with the big old fan brush. One of the things that I often try and not do, which the fan brush has like a little tendency to do, is kind of just do like the you can get, it feels like sometimes it can feel like a stamp, like it's just the same thing happening over and over again. And so I think that's the place that sort of my natural hesitancy in using a stamp, and I was almost called a stamp brush, using the fan brush sometimes can creep in. But I think it doesn't take much at all to make it so that it's just not the case. Bias exposed. All right, but I do want to show you guys this just as a whole. This is an ACM panel. How cool is that? So it's aluminum composite. It is 2 pieces of aluminium, one on each side, with this plastic core. And so it's archival. It is like super solid. And it just means that like there's zero worry about the paper moving and bending because it's got Archer's cold press paper essentially kind of adhered to the top. And I met this company up at a LuxCon a while back and bought all of this. And this is like the only big size they had of this particular one, but you can order it like a million different sizes, apparently. I haven't gone on how to look. Liam says, my beloved ACM. Yeah, I also got some smaller ones. This one is, here we go. This one's just like, oh yeah, cotton polyester canvas. I got a linen canvas, little one is this as well. Anyway, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. I love it. Like they're so sturdy. Unfortunately, this is pretty expensive. But if I can get, artifacts are expensive though. Oh, I even forgot exactly how much I paid for it all. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't found anyone else. I haven't actually searched extravagantly, but I haven't found anyone else who does actually put like watercolor paper onto the ACM. So maybe I just need to do a little bit more looking around, because I love it. There's something so satisfying about it. All right, well, this was nice. This turned out really good down here. I need a little bit more in here as well. Liam says, I just get the ACM in bulk and prime it myself. I'll have to keep looking. The interesting thing about this is how thin this is, at least compared to other ACM panels that I've seen. It's just so thin, and like this is the same thickness. But yeah, they did tell me that they were more than happy to tell me what kind of adhesive that they use to get the watercolor paper, so maybe I just need to get a try. Try it myself. See what I can do. There you go, a little bit more of this. Ooh, Liam says he can send me a video where there's a guy that does exactly that thing pretty much. Thank you very much. I would love that. That'd be brilliant. All right. I mean, so we're in a place where I'm still not feeling this down here. There's some of this that I love, and then some of it that's maybe just a bit too much. And so I'm gonna bring maybe a little bit more darkness, tone down some of the color in some of this. Yeah. So I'm gonna do that over this side. Let's see, Liam, you found any other, or any of you, I know Xanthus here too, and Bill. Have you guys found any interesting art supplies or tools lately that you're really into? All right, so we want to just put some like plain water under here. And that way we're gonna sort of soften this area, just get that value down. And that color down. Something nice and soft. Liam says, you know, I'm wanting to try charcoal powder with water. That is pretty fun. That is pretty fun. I do like that. I've been doing a lot of watercolor painting lately. I explore a lot of different techniques with gouache all the time, and then I started seeing just there's a big divide between a lot of gouache users and a lot of watercolor users in terms of some of the techniques they use, and I realized that it doesn't have to be. You know, they're so similar. You can basically just use it gouache like watercolor all the time. So I've started looking at a lot of watercolor artists, and apparently a lot of the big ones are in Australia as well. So that's interesting. So yeah, but I'm having lots of fun with that. And then obviously I can port those ideas back over into gouache, and it's been so helpful. right, so we've got that. I'm going to pull in one of these to have a lot more value. A lot darker instead of the body as well. So, let's just go with this one. Not any more than that. I'll go with something a bit more brown as well. Just variety. Adding a bit more variety down here I think is going to, not going to solve all my problems, but it is going to help it feel a bit more natural. One thing I like about painting big is you can just, there's so much opportunity for texture and for a lot more interesting brushwork. Or at least in my head, which is, you know, where all the problems lie anyway. Okay, so while that's still wet, let's try and get some of this in. Oh, not like that. A lot more orange. Zan says, I've been thinking about making watercolor palette of only granulating colors. That's fun. I love that granulation look. Especially when I intend it. You know, sometimes it'll come back and bite me if that's really not what I'm going for. All right, now I need to wait for this to dry to see how it'll actually turn out. Brilliant. Okay. All right, let's see. You know, I think that this is where I need it to be for now. And I'm going to call this a success in terms of getting everything streaming all set up. And so I'm going to head out because we only have one car at the moment, and my wife needs the car for a while. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me, and we'll be doing this significantly more often. And I'm excited. So thank you. I'll see you guys later.